Hi! This week I am really looking forward to some of the videos that I'm going to show you. Hopefully I will have enough time to get them all posted, and I'm going to try to talk as I stamp today. So I'll explain why I'm excited as I go, but I want to get started stamping because this one has a lot of little elements to it. So it's going to take me a little bit of time. That's why I'm starting right with the stamping and not showing you any of me. I am going to, let's use some proper English here, Cheri. I'm going to be using the Country Home stamp set, but I'm going to mix some different elements of different parts of sweets. So this week, I have my demonstrator team over, and when we get the holiday mini, it's big, and you know, there's kind of two sections, especially if you live in the US. So let me, here's the stamp set, because I know some of you have the catalog. I can't show you the inside of the catalog. It's one thing that as demonstrators we can't do until September 5th. But if you live in the US, you know, then we've got, oh, there's a little dimensional backing. You know, we have Labor Day, and that kind of kicks off our fall. So even if you live in states where it doesn't get cool right away, you know, it's kind of a mental thing for us. You know, after Labor Day, it's fall. It's not even really on the calendar, but I'm going to use Memento ink. So, you know, it's fall. It's not really, but it does start football. So, you know, our mind kind of goes to fall. It's still kind of hot in a lot of places. Using Memento ink. And the leaves don't really change until the end of September-ish. Really more October, at least in Indiana. I'm going to use the little watering can. And on this card, I am going to color it like the ironstone bluish look. It's gonna be more blue than white, but that's the look I'm going for. If you've seen my other video with this suite, I'm used not the cotton. I'm gonna use the other little sprig of flowers that comes with it. So you know, we have September, and then we move into October when the leaves really do change. Here in the Midwest, we have tons of festivals. Every single weekend you can go to some kind of festival. Here in Indiana, we have like Feast of the Hunter's Moon, which is, you know, a lot of reenactment. It's a reenactment festival. It's muggy here today, and that makes my ink sometimes pool. It's pooling a little bit, so I'm going to hold it down. If you hold it down on the photopolymer, you can see if it's pooling, and when you hold it down, you can see it kind of like run back together because it pools on the photopolymer, but if you hold it a second, then it kind of runs back together. I don't know, I may have stamped off the edge of this. Oh no, I'm good. So this has some different sprigs. Before, if you've seen the other video I did, I used the cotton, not using the cotton. I'm going to let this move aside. So we have September, you know, we start thinking about fall. Starbucks comes out with their pumpkin spice everything. It used to just be the pumpkin spice latte. Now they put it in everything. Then, you know, October's all the festivals, it's Halloween, and then November is Thanksgiving. So in our holiday catalog, I know the rest of the world, you kind of have to deal with the US holidays. And I'm sorry. Not really. you can make it work. So when I do my demonstrator events, I have two for the holiday catalog. And so this first one is this week, and it will be all things those seasons. I may stick in one, maybe two Christmas cards, and then we'll get together again and we'll just focus solely on the Christmas sometime in September. But for this first one, so on Facebook I do a product of the week. For you guys, you're going to get a sneak peek of the holiday catalog, and it's going to be just sneak peek of holiday catalog. So it'll give you something to look forward to on September 5th, which is a weird date. I know if you live in the whole rest of the world, like why can't we order from the holiday catalog on September 1st? But I know it's because here the home office is closed for the long weekend of our Labor Day. So that just kind of, you know, then we come back and in our minds, it's kind of the last weekend of summer, even though kind of not. I've got the large oval framelit. I'm going to cut this out. I'm doing this because I like to let my Memento have a second to dry, and especially because it was like, I don't know, the heat index It didn't feel that hot to me because I was in the pool this afternoon. So I didn't feel hot, but it was warm today in Indy and muggy. So I put that through. So I'm going to give that a second to dry. It's the only thing I'm cutting out. So I'm going to use the magnetic platform for that. Mainly just because that was sitting here from another project I did before. It doesn't really need the magnetic. Then this is also a sneak peek item. It's corrugated, and if you've been with Stampin' Up! For a long time, you know we used to have the corrugator and you could roll your paper through. That was such a hip thing way back in the day. I may still have mine somewhere. This would be really cool if you are making things where you want to wrap them like around a candle, because it really makes your paper move. But for this one I do need, it's a super thick embossing folder. So I just need my regular platform and just one cutting plate. And roll this through and I'll show you, especially on the crumb cake paper, cardstock. See, look what it does. It just, I mean, you could wrap that, I think, around candles or around like candles or like cups. Last year I did I put a playlist on today on YouTube of some of my fall things from last year. So if you can't get the fall stuff yet and you are in the mood for fall, then some of the stuff that I stamped last year you can still get. I'm gonna move the big shot stuff out of the way so you can go over on the playlist. Those were, I think, all of the videos I posted as part of that playlist were all of my like 3-4 minute and under videos where I sped them up. So you can watch all of those probably. You can probably get 9 projects in the amount of time that it's going to take me to stamp this one because I'm talking. So this is Night of Navy. If you watched the other one where I made the cotton card with this stamp set, that was the designer series paper that does come with the suite. This one, I'm going to use our frosted paper, and one day this week as part of my preview, it may be the day after I actually have my girls over, but I'll show you some of the up close, or it may even be next week when you can actually order from the catalog when we get closer to the actual. But I don't know if you can see this. This paper is all frosted. It doesn't go with this, but because I wanted to paint my can blue, I went with this. So you can see here how I've pulled my colors of my blends, because that's how I'm going to color it. So it's this paper, every single piece is frosted. It's so, so pretty. So this is how I went with my colors. I'm going to do one more thing. The set also has, it doesn't have a Happy Thanksgiving, so if you're living anywhere else but Canada, you don't have to fret. You're going to be able to use all of the sayings, because it says simply thankful for all good things. So even you Australian girls, I know you're thankful. You Kiwi girls, you can be thankful. Doesn't matter where you live, we're all thankful. And because I'm going to put this on a piece of vellum, because I wanted some more, I wanted to be able to fit the words on here for one thing, but I didn't want to cover up all of the pretty stuff. And I didn't want to stamp on this. It didn't show up too well on the navy, and obviously you don't want to stamp it on the corrugated, or else it would be hard to read. But it takes a long time for it to dry on the vellum. So maybe at my class, especially when I have my camp, because this is just one more step. But when I was stamping last night, it also makes it really pretty because it makes it a little bit stronger of a black. And I know it's Memento. And really the only thing that wouldn't work on here is StazOn. So you could use any color of classic ink, because the vellum takes a long time to dry. In fact, last night it probably sat here for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I was afraid I was going to smear it. So you just heat set it with the clear embossing powder. See, it's got the clear. I have my heat gun here. And you'll see how stark it makes it look, which is really nice on the navy cardstock, because it does make it show up better. I probably need to talk louder because my gun. You see it? I don't know if you'll be able to see it on there, but it gives it a nice strong look. So with all that's going on this card, the saying doesn't end up getting lost. See if I've got, I think I got it off. Sometimes the angle I have to go so you guys can see it isn't the best for me. But there you go. So you can see now when it gets layered on top of this and this and the navy, you're not going to lose the words, because the black on the vellum is strong, but that just adds a little bit of oomph to it. And because it's going to take a minute for you to color this card, this just sets it off nicely. This card would also be pretty, just, when I take pictures of my cards for my website, I have that little, it kind of looks like my table, the little farmhouse frame that just has the little clip. And you could always change out card fronts, like they wouldn't have to actually be cards, but just little panels that you could always have as home decor. So to color this, to make it look like the, I flipped that over, it's got a little bit of embossing powder there. I'm going to color this. I know it's going to be upside down for you guys, and I apologize, but some of these are harder for me to color. This is the navy. This is the dark. If you haven't watched my videos before, I never use the brush tip, hardly ever. I'm just going to squidge some of the navy, dark navy on here. And it will bleed, and you can tell I'm not going to cut this out, so I'm not going to go right up to the edge. If you have a problem with your blends bleeding, make sure you're always coloring on typing paper. This is our blotter paper, which a lot of people don't realize you can buy our Stampin' Up! Blotter paper in the catalog. It's nice to always have the giant blotter underneath you. But if your stuff's bleeding, it's because it has to have some place for it to go. So the excess blend stuff, it shows up on the back the more and more you color. And so when there's a lot, especially on an area like this, if it's soaking into the paper underneath, then that's just kind of less. And I don't want a ton of color on this because I'm going to use my color lifter a lot on this. So I'm just going to add some light. And if you get too close to the edge with a lot of ink, again, the ink has to go somewhere because it's alcohol ink, so it does spread. So if you have a bleeding out of the edge problem, don't get so close with a lot of ink. You can get up close with a little bit. So this is kind of random for the way I normally color, because I want some color in there everywhere. And I know that looks kind of nasty right now, but I'm going to let that sit for just a second. I'm going to move on. I'll do the cattails next. And for those, I have pulled out 3 different colors. I'm going to start with the bronze. I should have laid all these so that small tips were all facing the same way. And on the bronze, here where the little highlight tips are, again, I'm not going to go right up to the edge with this dark color because these are small, tiny areas. And if you put a whole lot of ink on the small, tiny areas, it is going to bleed out. This is the crumb cake. This is the dark. Do a strip kind of down the middle, and you can see it right away blends into the bronze. And that's all I need of that one. So I'm going to move it out. And then I have the light crumb cake. And I'm going to fill that in. And with the light, I can go with a light touch right up to the edge. And then I'm going to let those sit just for a second while I color everything else. And then I might want to go back in with those. I might not. So I'll just let them sit there until I know. It tends to be what I do. If I like the look, then I move the marker. And if I think I might want it, this is the dark blackberry. And again, because I'm going to color in these teeny little berries, I'm just going to put a dot right in the middle. I'm not going to color to the edge because it's going to bleed. And if I fill the whole thing, then it's going to bleed right outside of the berry. And then I'll set this marker aside, and then when I'm done at the end, if it hasn't bled all the way up to some of them and I want to dot it to the edge on those, then I will. Then I've got 2 shades of green because there's kind of 2 leaves, and I'm going to use the mint macaron first, and I'm going to do these tiny little sprigs of leaves in the mint. And again, these are tiny, so I've got the dark, and I'm just going to kind of hit the middles of them with the dark. Because when you have these tiny areas, again, the bleeding, I have so many people ask me, they'll message me and say, how do I not get my stuff to bleed? And if you watch like my watercolor pencils, if you watch when I color Stella with ink refills, my Brusho. I love color, so I'm heavy-handed with a lot of color. With the blends, if you're heavy-handed, and I am, because I'll go back sometimes and put 3 or 4 coats, but you have to allow for the bleeding. So if you start with too much, then it's going to bleed. And that's going to be plenty of that because these are tiny. And sometimes if you see my 2 cards, when I've done one on video and one that I've made beforehand on my blends, sometimes the color is darker on the one I've done ahead of time because I've had longer to color. And I know you guys don't want to sit here and watch me for 20 minutes just coloring. But there, I've just hit that with the light mint. And I'm going to flip this around so I can kind of see what I'm doing, because I'm going to go in with my first coat of the color lifter. And because I want this to look like that, the porcelain that has like the dots all over it, I know there's a word, and I know if you watch me a lot, I take migraine medicine that makes me not remember words, and if I don't use them very often, then I really don't remember them. So whatever the blue porcelain, the blue like dotty pottery is, I'm going with the dotty pottery. Somebody can message me, comment on there, and you can tell me what the dotty pottery is. Everybody always helps me after the fact. If this was a Facebook Live, it would be better because somebody could help me. So I'm kind of squidging this, and you'll see at the end the effect. I'm kind of swirling this color lifter around. It's not really the intended purpose for it. And I'm kind of dragging it where I didn't get to the edge. It'll kind of move some of the blue around. I don't usually color with my color lifter because it's really more designed to kind of fix your mistakes or lighten the middle if you want some shading. And then I'm going to let that sit for a minute and see if I want to get some more in a minute. Then there's this artichoke-y looking thing. Or if you're in Australia, I think it's a Waratah because those are my favorite. I'm not really sure exactly what it is on here. And also with these leaves on here, I can't really tell what they are either. But there's some big leaves. And with these, I'm going to go in with the sea foam. And in the middle of the leaves, I'm going to do the dark sea foam. Because if I colored the leaves yesterday, I did them second, and I couldn't really tell if the artichoke thing, I think it's an artichoke, or I don't know if it's an artichoke or a Waratah or what it's supposed to be. So I didn't even really know what color. So because I wanted it to match my paper, I went with the pink that matched the paper, which is the petal pink. So it's not an artichoke in my world unless you know you got it at TJ Maxx from the dried flower section and they spray painted it. So that's enough of the sea foam. Mine's just, you know, a dried flower one. Or it could be a Waratah because I think they probably come in petal pink. And when I lived in Australia, there was nothing that made me more happy than all of the little flower shops on the street corners when you were walking somewhere that you could just buy flowers. Because we don't have that in Indiana. Because these are bigger leaves, I can put down a little bit more ink because there's more room for it to bleed into. Okay. So with these, I took first the dark pink and kind of like around each of the petals, around the tops, I just put a little bit of the dark. And then I took, this is the light blackberry. And I literally just put like one line. There's some little accent lines because it was too faded when it was just the petal pink. I kind of got lost in there. And so then I took the light petal pink, and you'll see that you lose the blackberry. It kind of gets mushed in there when you blend it. kept my dark one here in case I needed a little bit more. And that's not too bad. I'll add just a tiny bit more highlights. When you first put the dark petal paint down, it looks a little like fluorescent orange, but it fades. And you can see that my cattails have kind of dried to a lighter brown, which is okay because the brown on my card is crumb cake, which is a light brown. But I just want to have a tiny bit more of a shadow on them. So I go with the bronze, which is why I left them there. Let's shade that in. And then these places where my blackberry didn't quite bleed to the edge. Most of them did. That one didn't bleed to the edge, and I just dotted it right outside the edge. Don't need any more of that dark. But right here, a couple of places this didn't go to the edge. Okay, then I'm just going to take the color lifter one more time. I'm about finished. I don't know how long this has gone for because I have my clip covering up my time. About 20 minutes. It's not terrible. This time I have my brush tip. So, you know, it's not exactly like the pottery, but I know that whoever would get the card, you know, it has the overall feel to it. Back before I used to make videos, I always kept all of the projects a secret from my girls before they came. But it's kind of nice now. At least they can watch these if they choose. If they don't care if they're surprised. So at least they know a little bit about what they're going to be doing. And you can see when you color this, that is why your stuff bleeds. See, you can see where a lot of it's gone onto the paper. But this has to have some place to go because a lot of the color bleeds through. So some of this then soaked into my scrap paper as opposed to bleeding onto the rest of the card. So now it's just mainly putting it together. I have a couple of little other sneak peek things for you. So I'm going to put my frost paper here. And I thought this was fun because it's this designer series paper is more out of a Christmas set, and it's a fun Christmas suite because it's designed more for places where Christmas isn't necessarily a summer holiday. I mean, where it could be a summer holiday because it's frosted, so it's pretty, but it's not necessarily wintry. So it's pretty and frosted. So if you're in the southern hemisphere, if you're in Australia or New Zealand, it would be a great choice for you for Christmas paper. But it works really well, I think, for this, especially for early fall when it's not, the leaves haven't changed. Makes a pretty thank you card. It would make a nice sympathy card. It would just be pretty all year round. So it gets your stamps that are in the, I should have looked at that a little bit. It's okay. Before I stuck that on there. My other one's squished over a little bit, so a little bit more of that shows, but it's okay. Then these are the galvanized clips, and we have galvanized, I knew I was gonna cough, galvanized silver paper that these go with. But I didn't use it on this card. I did use it on the first card that I made with this, but I did not use the clips. So you know, stuff can be in suites and it doesn't all have to match. So I'm going to stick this on here a little bit. It's not really holding it together. You can see I held it together with a snail. And then this is one of my favorite trims out of the holiday catalog, and it is braided linen trim. I'm going to stick it through the top of this here. And I don't want it to be too long because I'm going to shred it, and the longer that you cut it, then the more there is to shred, and it kind of just takes a long time then. And just a little bit of it's pretty for the shredding. You don't need a ton. So just tie it in a knot. In fact, the one that I did last night was long, and it took me forever to shred it, and then when it was all done, it was too much, and I ended up cutting a bunch of it off. Because usually my theory with ribbon is to cut more than you need, because wasting it is so much quicker, you know, just losing a little bit. Oh, and I really need my pokey thing, but it's not here. Because sometimes the scissors are so sharp that they cut it, but I think this is short enough. This is so much faster than last night, because last night it was like down to here, and then when it was all said and done, it covered up half my stamping. So I cut it. This could have been a fraction longer, but this will be okay. So this threaded stuff, it's better with the pokey thing because it won't cut it. Sometimes these just all of a sudden will decide to slice it. I did use this on the card that I did before with the stamp set. So if you haven't watched that one, I also used a Q-tip, which was fun. That was the very, I was going to say it was the very first card I made from the holiday catalog this year, but I think it was the second. And this was also the second one I made on my second go around. I did a bunch when I first got this stuff, and then I had to return to real world and stamp for the events that I had coming up. So now I'm back to getting ready for this event. And it's funny, I gravitated to the same two sets, first and second. So it was except video-wise, I did opposite this time. So there you go. Hope you can see that. And I hope that you, I know somebody can comment and tell me what this pottery is called. It's not called blue dye pottery, but I did go to the store one day, last week maybe, and I took a bunch of different pictures of pots. And so when I focus on this suite, when I can post the links for the products that I used, the recipe, I will show you all of the pictures that I took just to give you ideas on how to color when you get these. Here's the one I did yesterday. And actually, I think the coloring this time is fairly similar. Sometimes when I color and talk, I don't do as good a job. That looks pretty similar. So get ready for the holiday preview week that I'm going to have on Facebook. I will still have a special at the end of next week. I will do a card on Facebook Live on... Usually my Facebook Lives are on Thursday. My event with my girls is on Thursday. So if I'm ready, I will do it Thursday because obviously I will be dressed. If I'm not ready on Thursday when I'm setting up, then I will do a little bit of a Facebook Live when they are here and they are stamping, just so you can see what it's kind of like. And then if the projects that I don't have filmed yet, at least you can see them and the how-tos will be filmed. But there you go. That is the Country Home. I'll show you the, it's photopolymer. It does not have dies, so it's a inexpensive stamp set. It's got some great sayings. It's got the two little things to put them in. So, and it will be on my, both on my Facebook, which is Cheri's Cards, and it will be on my website, stampinonline.com. So if you like this, I would love it, love it, love it if you would give it the thumbs up, and I would love it if you'd subscribe to my station. And if you have a playlist for the holiday catalog going on, you could put that on there too, or if you have a playlist for fall cards. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.